This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. Seth Godin, the author. I would describe his work as business insights / self-help / self-actualization, making yourself better, thinking more clearly. I've thought for a long time that Seth Godin does that very well in short, terse sound bites. I'd like to read one, which I think really opens up and applies universally for my life, for my world, for my work, but for you, for anyone, for any point in time, name the subject. The title, What Is and What Might Be, kind of reminds me of an old Led Zeppelin song. The passage from Seth goes, they have much less in common than you might expect. What is and what might be. The key step in creating a better future is insisting that it not be based on the assumptions, grievances, and dead ends of the past. Ooh, right? He's right in the moment of now. Alan Watts 101. Seth continues, the future won't be perfect. We won't be perfect. But we can be kind. We can listen. We can give opportunity the benefit of the doubt. The future won't always work. We won't always succeed. But we can be alert and seek out the possible instead of the predicted. The possible instead of the predicted. Hold that thought for a second. Seth, continuing, the future won't always be fair, but we can try, we can care, we can choose to connect. It can be better if we let it. I'm not sure how many books Seth is channeling to reduce that wisdom to that simple few sentences. Absolutely brilliant, though. And he's doing it in a non-political way, a non-controversial way. Oh, it's controversial if you accept it. If you accept what he's saying and you don't really run your life that way. I mean, Seth is not telling you, take this or I will, knock you down in an intellectual way. He's challenging. The future is not based on assumptions, grievances, and dead ends of the past. That brings me to a thought. The other day, I received an email. Nice guy. Said he liked my work. But I could see he was a little bit of the complaint type. Said he had read my books. Says he listens to this podcast. And he told me point blank that I'm making a big mistake. Now, for anyone who listens to this podcast, you know that I am well-traveled. And for most of my life, I'd say 90%, I've lived in the United States of America. But in the last handful of years, I've had the chance to live outside of U.S. That doesn't mean that I don't make it to the U.S. every year. Of course I do, often for a month or two. But this guy knows this, but he doesn't like it. He's American. He doesn't like where I have traveled to. It upsets him. It upsets him because he is a veteran of the war in Vietnam. That really bothers him. And he told me point blank that I'm upsetting him and I'm upsetting other people to my detriment. The sheer act of being in a country where he once fought. Now, this is a long time ago. We're talking before 1975. Add up the numbers. This wasn't yesterday. But I appreciate that this was his experience. I appreciate that he does not have good memories. I was not there. I did not experience what he experienced. But you know what? The vast majority of Vietnam did not experience that either. It's a country of 100 million people. 50 million under the age of 30. They were not alive. They weren't there. Now, my point is not about Vietnam or the Vietnam War. My point is about thinking clearly. My point is back to what Seth Godin makes the key point assumptions, grievances, and dead ends of the past. Yes, if you're emotionally broken about something that took place in your life, I can understand you want to push that onto other people. You want to throw it at other people. But it's 2018. We're all smart. We should be smart. We should look to excel. We should look to be the best that we can be. 360-degree thinkers, not people that are stuck in some moment in time that they can't get out of. I asked him, I said, what's the point? What are you talking about? What does this have to do with anything? Because ultimately he really didn't like my trading responses. So then he said, I don't like this about you and your travel and the fact that you've lived outside the US. Again, it's 2018. How in the world can anyone compete if they have that mindset? And you might say to yourself, oh, Mike, people don't really think like that. Not a lot of people think about that. You got the one random guy. Not really, because that's why I led off with Seth Godin's opening piece here. It's exactly why I led off with it. Too many people think like this. Too many people are stuck, unable to get out. The future won't be perfect. We won't be perfect, but we can be kind, we can listen, we can give opportunity the benefit of the doubt. Now, I love when Seth says that. We can give opportunity the benefit of the doubt. I'm a guy that's written several books about a particular type of strategy that works for trading and it works for your life. Giving opportunity the benefit of the doubt. That's trend following. Like, open up to what might be the opportunity. Don't just hold on to something that doesn't keep you moving down the path. I think the one thing that I said to this guy that got him to pause, because his responses after what I said went downhill. He had no more piss and vinegar. It was over. I said to him, though, I said, listen, my grandfather fought in World War II in Germany on the ground. Many of his guys died right beside him. And yes, I know that my grandfather was probably not a big fan of Germany through the rest of his life until the time that he died. But you know what he never told me? He never told me, Michael, do not go to Germany. He never told me, Michael, do not go to Japan. I never heard my grandfather say that. Yes, I'm sure World War II, fighting on the ground in Germany, changed him. Probably not for the good. Probably like my friend that was writing about the Vietnam War. But you have a choice when faced with one of these predicaments, one of these awful situations. Because the world goes on without us. I mean, we all eventually die and we expire. And some people will go through a really bad experience and some people will go through a really good experience. But it's how do you handle it? How do you use the experience to make yourself better? How do you make good choices? Again, I love the fact that my grandfather never said anything to me along the lines of don't go to Germany, don't go to Japan. And he's in a book. You can find my grandfather in a book. It's not a big, pretty picture book. It's a really grisly version of the time where him and his guys were fighting on the ground. The book is called Follow Me and Die. My grandfather on my maternal side, John Pruden. Amazing. And my uncle told me, I asked him not too long ago, I said, hey, did you ever get any firsthand feedback from your father? He's like, oh yeah. He's like, my father, your grandfather, was standing right there. And next to him would be his buddy with a shot to the head and his brains blown out. Boom, gone. And he stayed optimistic. He stayed positive. After all of that, he kept it together. That doesn't mean it was easy. And maybe he wanted to say, don't go to Germany. Maybe he wanted to say, don't go to Japan, but he didn't. He was smarter. He was more professional about it. He kept the big picture. Somehow or another, he knew, even though he had to experience that really shitty trauma, he didn't saddle his grandson with some early image of how bad it would be to travel to other countries. Because unlike my friend who wrote me and said, hey, you need to stop talking about being in that particular country because you're upsetting an entire population experienced with that war and they won't like you for that. Well, that's not exactly true because I know plenty of people that were there and they don't have that feeling. I do know some others that do. I know a family friend where my parents have said something to him, a guy that I've known my whole life, and he just goes into meltdown mode when he hears about my traveling. The future won't be perfect. We won't be perfect, but we can be kind. We can listen. We can give opportunity, the benefit of the doubt. The future won't always work. We won't always succeed, but we can be alert and seek out the possible instead of the predicted. Instead of the predicted. Back to my trend following world, the predicted. I've noticed recently, and there's got to be other people thinking about this besides me. Go look at your Facebook feed. Go look at your Twitter feed. Really smart people all day long in a state of disillusionment. They're incredulous. They can't believe something is happening. It's a really weird time that everyone thinks their voice is important or that they have something to say or they feel the need to fill the airtime all day long. Look what I have to say right now. I just gave brilliant analysis about the market at 2:16 p.m. in the afternoon, USA time. No, you didn't. Your noise. Oh, yes, you can come back and you can say, Mike, your noise right now too. Except my point is more of a timeless point. I'm not attempting to say Mike Covel has the topical opinion of the day. Yes, I can be guilty of that. But I try not to, and I feel like we are reaching a moment where after 20 years, and that 20 years of technology has hit all age groups at the same time, which is an interesting side tangent that we don't often think about. But after 20 years of a bombardment, after 20 years of constant information flow, back to Seth's original point, there's a mindfulness that we all want. We want the moment of now. We don't know that we want the moment of now. We want to be stuck in the past. We want to have assumptions. We want to be stuck in dead ends. But the human condition truly, really wants to be right now. Because right now is the only place that it feels good. It doesn't feel good worrying about the future. It doesn't feel good worrying about the past. But if you're having a really nice experience in the right now, that feels amazing. And right now is all we have. 1, 2, 3. That's all we've got. There is no more. Now, I admit sometimes I will come on this podcast and I will have plenty to say in a very poignant way, a very particular way, often with a lot of emotion. I usually calm down, though. I might get a few F-bombs in there and the like, but there's a big picture. It's shooting for timeless. No one can have an opinion for every second of the day that makes any sense. Now, I know some of you are thinking right now, Mike, you're wasting my time. You're not giving me, here it comes, I can hear it. I can hear it coming. You're not giving me actionable insight, Mike. The guy that's asking for actionable insight is literally the guy with the blinking red light on his head that says, idiot, excuse maker, complainer. What I'm laying out today is a pattern of thought, a pattern of thought foundation that then allows you to make good decisions. Let me give an example, something concrete. A customer writes me the other day, somebody who is learning trend following trading, and he says he is discouraged. He is not getting what he wants in terms of performance. I said, well, how long have you been trading? And he said, well, like 5 years. I said, okay. And I knew he was not with me for 5 years. I knew that just by recognizing the name. I said, well, how long have you been trading as a trend following trader? He said, well, like, 2 months. And people wonder why I will do a podcast episode like this, where I lay out these simple ways of thinking. The simple ways of being a skeptic, a critical thinker, digging up behind the scenes. So here I have a guy who says he's discouraged with trend following trading after 2 months. That's like a blinking red light again. I'm not calling him an idiot by any stretch of the imagination, but something's wrong there. Did he miss every interview that took place in this podcast with every trend following trader? Did he miss every one of my books? Or did he consume that information, consume that insight, consume that wisdom, and block it out? Ignore it? Or does he just want a friend to complain to? I mean, that happens to us all. We all sometimes want to just complain to somebody and tell them our sob story. But it's all the mental. It's all the psychological. He shouldn't be telling me he's discouraged. He should first be finding out what happened before him. He's discouraged after 2 months? Okay. Go find out what happened in the first 2 years of Bill Dunn's trading. Go check and find out what happened in the beginning of Jeff Bezos launching Amazon. Yeah, sure. Sometimes there's a little luck. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg put up Facebook and it was a hit immediately. He literally was guaranteed money to come in. But most things don't work like that. Most endeavors have struggle. Persistence is needed to achieve. If you don't have the persistence, if you don't stick with it, what are you left with? I know what you're left with. You're left with all those voices on Facebook and Twitter that are not happy, complaining, pointing fingers. It's just you, man. There's no team. That's a bunch of nonsense. It's you. You came in alone. You'll go out alone. Yes, there will be friends and family along the way, but it's you. You've got to wake up each day, each damn day, and you've got to want it. You've got to want it really bad. Another example, I just saw that Patrick Reed won the Masters golf tournament. The first thing that I noticed about the coverage, his first major win, 27 years old, been playing professionally, I think 5 or 6 years, won several college championships. I Googled him. I was not familiar with him. I'm a somewhat distant golf fan, not too much really, but I like winners. I like people that persist. So this guy looks like he's a little bit of a tough cookie, at least by the descriptions in the press. But literally every description in the press after he won the Masters was that he does not talk with his parents and his sister. He is estranged from his family. He's got a wife and kids, but he's estranged from his parents and his sister. Almost every story ran with that. Not about what it took to win that tournament over 4 days. Oh yeah, that was there. But that was presented on a par, on a level with the story about his family. What's wrong with us that there's a demand to want to know about why this guy's not talking to his father versus wanting to know how he has become one of the few men to ever win that golf tournament? See, that's what we should all want to know. We should want to know what was going through his mind on every hole, the decisions he made, the risks that he took, the luck that he had on some holes. This is the intriguing stuff. This is the stuff that helps us to get better. The other stuff, what's wrong with his family, presented at the same level as his win, that is societal rot, societal cancer. That we as a people want that. We demand that. We want that information. And look, those headlines about his family, they're put out there because the media companies feeding the information know they can measure it. that we want to read the information about his family. Look, it's a race. We can spend every moment going down side tangents, rabbit holes, and every other goose chase with our time. Or we can get efficient and say it's time to create something. It's time to make something. Not just only work for the man. That's not enough. Not just only go to a school and get a degree. That's not enough. That's not enough. I challenge you, it's not enough. Deep down in the human condition, every individual wants something more. You absolutely want something more. You know you want something more. But you're paused. You're paused to reach out and grab it. And maybe this is why I make the point with Patrick Reed. Instead of getting a chance to learn more about his decision-making on the golf course, which would probably be fascinating to even non-golf players, we're inundated with just crap. Soap opera crap. Really, who loves that stuff? Who wants that? Every damn day that we let drama into our minds is a day that we lose. And if we've got limited days, damn straight, we want to limit the dramas. I started this episode with a small passage from Seth Godin. I want to end with a small passage from Seth Godin because it ties together all of the, what you might think, maybe some people think, are random thoughts that I've put forward today. They're not random, at least not in my mind. They're things that people don't typically talk about, not on air, not in public, because it's unsafe. But it's the stuff that intrigues me. But going out, ending on Seth Godin, subject heading, which is worse? Which is worse? Failure or fear of failure? Fear or fear of fear? Trying and failing or not trying at all? Speaking up and not being heard or suffering in silence? Caring and losing or not caring at all? Doing or wondering? I don't care what you do. Just do something. Have something that's yours. Something that you believe in, something that you own, something that no one can take away from you. And if you have that, you'll be happy. You'll be content. Your day will not be messed up. Now, of course, people will try to come into your world and mess up your contentment. They'll try to come in and mess up your happiness. But if you can be a doer, I'm telling you, that's the secret to success. You can't control the damn outcomes. But if you can be a doer, which correlates very nicely with the word process. If you can be a doer, a process person, good stuff's going to happen. You can't control those outcomes. You don't know what's going to happen exactly. But if you wake up every day and you want to do, you want to make happen, you've got a solid foundation. No solid foundation? Forget being an entrepreneur. Forget being a trader. If you can't be grounded, if you can't sit still with yourself, if you're discouraged after a few months of trading, if you're discouraged after a few months of anything, pause. Hit the pause button. Hit the big red pause button. It's time to sit still, self-reflect, and read. And speaking of reading, I want to give one of my all-time favorite shout-outs. Some people will love this. Some people will smirk. Those that smirk, I've got my middle finger up to you right now. The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. If you have not yet read The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand, I must ask, why not? So now I'm giving you permission to go dig in, and I challenge you to read that book and come back to me and tell me why it was a waste of your time. Because if you come back to me and you tell me it was a waste of your time, I could just block you now. I can just delete your email. It just saves me a lot of time. But I have a sneaky suspicion the vast majority of those listening, if they have not yet read The Fountainhead, will come back with a very, very fond view of Howard Roark. I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.